The champagne flute slipped through my fingers. I watched it fall in slow motion, crystal catching the amber light of the hotel ballroom, refracting it into 1,000 golden shards before it shattered against the marble floor. The sound cut through the jazz quartet like a gunshot. Every head turned. My face burned as I dropped to my knees, my black server's vest pulling tight across my shoulders. "I'm so sorry," I whispered, reaching for the largest pieces. Blood bloomed on my fingertip where an edge bit into skin. "Leave it." The voice came from above me, low and textured like smoke over gravel. I looked up. He sat alone at table 7, the only guest in a private corner that had been roped off all evening. I'd been told explicitly not to approach that section, yet somehow the tray had been meant for him, passed to me by Marco, the head server, with a tight smile and orders to be careful. The man's face emerged from shadow as he leaned forward. Sharp cheekbones, dark eyes that didn't blink. A mouth that suggested cruelty even in stillness. I said, "Leave it." He stood, and I realized how tall he was, 6'3", maybe more. His suit was black, perfectly tailored, probably worth more than my car. "You're bleeding." "It's nothing." I pressed my thumb against the cut, feeling my pulse throb beneath the pressure. He moved closer. The crowd had returned to their conversations, but I felt their awareness like static electricity, everyone pretending not to watch while watching everything. He pulled a white handkerchief from his pocket, monogrammed in silver thread I couldn't quite read in the dim light. When he reached for my hand, I flinched. His eyes met mine. Something flickered there. Amusement? Annoyance? It vanished before I could name it. "I don't bite," he said. "Not usually." The way he said usually made my stomach flip. I let him take my hand. His fingers were warm, surprisingly gentle as he wrapped the handkerchief around my cut. This close I could smell him. Bergamot and cedar and something darker, like expensive leather left out in rain. "What's your name?" he asked, still holding my hand. "Isla." My voice came out smaller than I intended. "Isla." He repeated it like he was testing the weight of it. "You're new." Not a question, a statement. 3 weeks, I admitted. I needed this job. The Palazzo Hotel paid better than anywhere else in the city, and my mother's medical bills weren't going to pay themselves. "I'm really sorry about the glass. I'll pay for it." "No." He released my hand and stepped back. "Tell Marco I want to see him." My blood chilled. Marco had worked here for 15 years. If I got him in trouble... "It wasn't his fault," I said quickly. "I'm just clumsy tonight." The man's expression didn't change, but something in his posture shifted. "Are you always this willing to take blame for things that aren't your fault?" The question caught me off guard. Before I could answer, he turned and walked back toward his table, leaving me kneeling in champagne and broken glass. The rest of the shift blurred together. I cleaned the mess, endured Marco's tight-lipped lecture about being more careful around the VIP section, and spent 3 hours refilling water glasses and smiling until my face hurt. But I kept feeling those dark eyes on me. Every time I glanced at table 7, he was watching. Not obviously. His attention would be on his phone, or the folder of papers spread before him, or the single glass of whiskey he nursed for 3 hours. But I felt it. The weight of his gaze tracking me across the ballroom like a heat-seeking missile. At midnight, when I finally peeled off my vest in the employee locker room, my hands were shaking. "You okay, hun?" Rosa, one of the senior waitresses, touched my shoulder. She was 50-something, with kind eyes and graying hair she kept in a tight bun. "Fine," I lied. "Just tired." "Marco's an ass," she said. "Don't let him get to you. That man at table 7? He tips everyone who serves him $500 minimum. Marco wanted that tip for himself. That's why he gave you the champagne. Probably hoping you'd screw up so he could swoop in and save the day." $500. My throat went dry. That would cover my mom's prescriptions for 2 months. Who is he? I asked. Rosa's expression changed. She glanced at the door, then lowered her voice. You really don't know? I shook my head. Dante Caruso. She said the name like it should mean something. When I still looked blank, she sighed. His family owns half the real estate in this city. The other half pays them protection money. You don't want to know more than that, Isla. Trust me. Protection money. The words settled in my stomach like stones. Rosa squeezed my shoulder. Just stay away from him. Do your job. Keep your head down, and for God's sake, don't go near table 7 again. I should have listened. But when I walked out the employee entrance into the alley behind the hotel, Dante Caruso was leaning against a black Mercedes, arms crossed over his chest. My feet stopped moving. The alley was empty except for the two of us and the orange glow of a single streetlight. Rain had started while I worked, leaving the asphalt slick and reflecting his silhouette in dark pools. Isla. He said my name like he'd been practicing it. My hand tightened on my purse strap. I was just leaving. I know. He didn't move, but somehow his presence expanded to fill the space between us. I wanted to give you this. He held out an envelope. I stared at it. I can't accept. $500, he said. Standard tip for my server. I wasn't your server. I just brought one glass, and I dropped it. You knelt in broken glass and tried to take the blame for someone else's malice. His voice dropped lower. That interests me. The word malice hung in the air between us. Marco didn't... I started. Marco, Dante interrupted, has been skimming from the hotel for 3 years. He also sells information about our guests to interested parties. I've been waiting for an opportunity to remove him. Our guests? Like he owned the hotel. Maybe he did. I don't want any part of this, I whispered. He stepped closer. Not threatening, exactly, but inevitable. Like a storm moving in. You already are. The moment you picked up that glass, Marco involved you, and when you protected him anyway. He tilted his head, studying me. You have no idea what you've stepped into, do you? My heart hammered against my ribs. Then tell me. For a long moment, he said nothing. Rain began to fall harder, misting the air between us. Finally, he pushed off the Mercedes and closed the distance between us in 3 strides. He pressed the envelope into my hand, his fingers lingering over mine. Go home, Isla, he murmured. Lock your door. And tomorrow, when Marco asks you questions about tonight, you tell him nothing. Do you understand? I nodded, not trusting my voice. He smiled then, a small, dangerous thing that made my breath catch. Good girl. Then he was gone, sliding into the Mercedes that pulled away with barely a sound, leaving me alone in the rain with $500 and the terrible certainty that my life had just changed forever. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in my studio apartment, listening to rain hammer the windows, turning the envelope over and over in my hands. 5 crisp $100 bills, and beneath them, a business card. Dante Caruso, private number, no title, no company. Just a name and 11 digits I knew I shouldn't call. By dawn, I'd convinced myself I was overreacting. So a wealthy man had given me a generous tip. So he'd warned me about Marco. Maybe he was just protective of his favorite hotel. Maybe I'd imagined the danger in his voice, the way the air had seemed to thicken when he stepped close. Maybe. I called my mother at 7, before her morning nurse arrived. Isla? Her voice was thin, worn down by the cancer eating through her lungs. You're up early. Couldn't sleep. I wedged the phone between my shoulder and ear, making coffee with shaking hands. How are you feeling? The same. A pause, then. You sound strange. What's wrong? Everything I wanted to say. I met a man who makes my instincts scream, run, and stay in equal measure. A man who knows things about my coworkers, who tips in hundreds, who called me good girl like he had the right. Nothing, I said instead. Just tired. I'll come see you this weekend, okay? After we hung up, I stared at the bills spread across my tiny kitchen counter. Rent was due in 5 days. The pharmacy had already called twice about her prescription refills. I couldn't afford principals. I pocketed the money and went to work. The palazzo buzzed with tension the moment I walked in. Servers clustered in tight groups, whispering. Rosa grabbed my arm the second she saw me. Did you hear? Her eyes were huge. Marco's gone. My stomach dropped. Gone? Fired. Security escorted him out an hour ago. She glanced around, then pulled me into the supply closet. They're saying he was stealing, Isla, for years. Someone tipped off management. Someone. I thought of Dante's words. I've been waiting for an opportunity to remove him. That's good, I guess. I tried to keep my voice neutral. I mean, if he was stealing. That's not the weird part. Rosa leaned closer. Before they took him, he kept asking about you. Wanted to know if you'd talked to anyone after your shift last night. If you'd seen anything strange. My mouth went dry. What did you tell them? The truth. That you left through the back like always. Her grip on my arm tightened. Isla, what's going on? Nothing. The lie tasted bitter. I don't know anything. She studied my face for a long moment, then released me. Okay. But be careful, hun. There's something happening here and I don't like how your name keeps coming up. Table 7 remained empty all evening. I told myself I was relieved. Told myself the disappointment that flickered through me was just residual adrenaline, nothing more. But I kept looking at that roped-off corner, kept expecting to see him materialize from shadow. At 9, a man in a gray suit approached the hostess stand. He was shorter than Dante, built like a boxer, with a scar cutting through his left eyebrow. He spoke briefly with Angela, the night manager, then his eyes found me across the dining room. He walked straight toward me. Isla Moreno? His voice had a Brooklyn edge. Yes? I clutched my tray like a shield. Mr. Caruso requests your presence upstairs, Suite 1201. The dining room seemed to tilt. I was aware of every eye on me, every server and guest pretending not to listen. I'm working, I managed. He's spoken with your manager. You're released for the evening. He pulled out his phone, showing me a text from Angela confirming the message. This way, please. Please. As if I had a choice. The elevator ride to the 12th floor lasted an eternity. The gray-suited man, he hadn't offered his name, stood beside me in silence, hands clasped in front of him. I studied him in the polished brass doors. Military posture, expensive watch. A slight bulge under his left arm that made my pulse spike. Is he? I started, then stopped, unsure how to finish. Dangerous? A criminal? Going to hurt me? Mr. Caruso wishes to speak with you, the man said, answering nothing. The suite door was black lacquer with gold numbers. My escort knocked twice, then opened it and stepped aside. I walked into opulence. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, rain streaming down in silver ribbons. Dark hardwood floors, leather furniture, modern art that probably cost more than my annual salary. A bar in the corner, bottles arranged like amber soldiers. And Dante, standing by the window with his back to me. He wore a white shirt, sleeves rolled to his elbows, exposing forearms corded with muscle. No jacket. His dark hair was slightly disheveled, as if he'd been running his fingers through it. Close the door, he said without turning. I did. The click of the latch seemed very loud. Why am I here? I asked, proud that my voice didn't shake. Because you're either very brave or very stupid. He turned then, and the look in his eyes made my breath catch. Not anger. Something more complex. Curiosity mixed with something that looked almost like concern. I told you to tell Marco nothing. Yet according to him, you spoke at length about last night before he was escorted out. That's not true. The accusation stung. I didn't say anything. I barely saw him before. I know. Dante moved toward me, slow and deliberate. Marco lied to save himself. He assumed you'd betrayed him because he would have betrayed you. He stopped just outside my personal space, close enough that I could see gold flecks in his dark eyes. The question is, why didn't you? Why didn't I, what? Betray him. Protect yourself. His gaze moved over my face like he was memorizing it. I gave you an opening. You could have told management what you knew. Curried favor. Instead, you said nothing. I didn't know anything, I protested. I still don't. I don't understand what's happening or why you care what some waitress does or doesn't say. You're not some waitress. His hand came up and I froze, but he only brushed a strand of hair from my face with surprising gentleness. You're Isla Moreno, 24, mother dying of lung cancer. Student loans from a nursing degree you never finished because she got sick. You work 60 hours a week and still barely make rent. You're drowning, but you won't accept help from anyone. Horror washed over me. How do you know all that? I make it my business to know things about people who interest me. His fingers lingered near my temple. And you, Isla, interest me very much. Why? The word came out as a whisper. His mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Because you knelt in broken glass and tried to protect a man who was setting you up to fail. Because when I offered you money, you questioned whether you deserved it. Because you're standing here, terrified, and you still haven't run. He was right. I was terrified, but my feet remained planted. What do you want from me? I asked. Dante's hand dropped, but he didn't step back. I want to offer you a job. Of all the things I'd expected him to say, that wasn't one of them. A job? Marco's position is vacant. The hotel needs a new senior server. The position pays 3 times what you're making now. Full benefits, health insurance that would cover your mother's treatments. My heart hammered. Why would you do that? Because I can. His expression hardened slightly. And because you'll owe me. There it was. The catch. Owe you what? I forced myself to ask. Information. He turned and walked to the bar, pouring 2 glasses of something amber. He held one out to me. I have enemies, Isla. People who want to hurt me, hurt my family. This hotel is neutral ground. A place where certain meetings happen, certain deals are made. I need eyes and ears I can trust. You want me to spy for you? I want you to tell me things you notice. Unusual guests. Strange meetings. Conversations that seem off. He took a sip, watching me over the rim of his glass. In exchange, you get security. Safety. Your mother gets the care she needs. The glass trembled in my hand. I set it down on the nearest surface without drinking. And if I say no? Then you go back to drowning. His voice was matter-of-fact, not cruel. I won't force you, Isla, but I won't offer twice. Rain lashed the windows. The city glittered below us, oblivious. How do I know you won't use this against me? I asked. Use me? You don't. He set down his own glass and moved closer until we were sharing air again. But you know what will happen if you keep going the way you are. Bill collectors, eviction notices, your mother dying in a state facility instead of somewhere comfortable. His voice dropped to a murmur. I'm offering you a way out, Isla. All you have to do is trust me. I don't even know you. No, he agreed, but you will. His hand came up, cupping my jaw with startling tenderness. His thumb traced the line of my cheekbone, and I felt my breath shorten, felt heat pool in my stomach, despite every rational instinct screaming at me to run. "Say yes," he whispered. And God help me, I did. I started the new position the next day. Angela, the night manager, called me into her office with a smile that looked painted on. "Congratulations on your promotion," she said, sliding a folder across her desk. "Mr. Caruso spoke very highly of your work ethic." Mr. Caruso, not one of our regular guests or a valued patron. Just his name, spoken with the careful neutrality of someone who knew better than to ask questions. The benefits package made my eyes water. Salary nearly triple what I'd been making. Health insurance that would cover my mother's treatments, her medications, even experimental therapies if we wanted to try them. Dental, vision, a Christmas bonus that alone would cover 3 months' rent. "There's just one additional clause," Angela said, pointing to the final page. "You'll occasionally be asked to handle private events or VIP requests. This may include evening or weekend hours with minimal notice." VIP requests. I knew exactly what that meant. I signed anyway. My mother cried when I told her about the insurance. "Are you sure?" she asked, her voice breaking over the phone. "Isla, that sounds too good to be true. Did you have to do anything you're not comfortable with?" The question made my chest ache. "No, Mom. I promise. I just got promoted, that's all. They value hard work here." The lie tasted like copper on my tongue. After we hung up, I sat in my apartment and stared at Dante's business card, still tucked in my wallet. I'd memorized the number by now. 11 digits that felt like a contract written in invisible ink. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Dinner. Tomorrow. 8 p.m. Wear something nice. D. My thumb hovered over the screen. I should decline. Should establish boundaries immediately. Make it clear that our arrangement was purely professional. Instead, I typed, "Where?" The reply was instant. "I'll pick you up." He arrived at exactly 8 o'clock in a car that probably cost more than my entire apartment building. I'd agonized over what to wear for 2 hours, finally settling on a simple black dress I'd bought for a cousin's wedding 3 years ago. It was modest, hitting just above my knees, long sleeves, a high neckline, but it fit well, and it was the nicest thing I owned. When I slid into the leather passenger seat, Dante's eyes tracked over me with an intensity that made my skin feel too tight. "You look..." He paused, as if searching for the right word. "Unexpected. Is that good or bad?" "It's honest." He pulled away from the curb, navigating the city streets with casual confidence. "Most women dress to impress me. You dress like yourself." I didn't know what to say to that, so I watched the city blur past the tinted windows instead. We drove in silence for 15 minutes, leaving the downtown district and heading into an older neighborhood I didn't recognize. When he finally parked, we were in front of a restaurant I'd never seen before. No sign. No menu posted in the window. Just a black door with a brass knocker shaped like a lion's head. Dante came around to open my door, offering his hand. His palm was warm, calloused in unexpected places. "Have you ever had real Italian food?" he asked. "I've had pizza," I said, and was rewarded with the ghost of a smile. "Not the same." Inside, the restaurant was intimate, maybe 10 tables, all occupied by people who looked wealthy and dangerous in equal measure. A woman with silver hair and sharp eyes greeted Dante with kisses on both cheeks, speaking rapid Italian I couldn't follow. She looked at me with open curiosity. "Bella," she said, then something else in Italian that made Dante's expression shudder. "English, nonna," he said quietly. "Please." "Nonna. Grandmother." She smiled at me then, and it transformed her face. "Welcome, Cara. Any friend of Dante's is family here. Come, sit. I'll bring you something special. She led us to a table in the back corner, partially hidden by a screen of latticed wood. Candlelight flickered between us, throwing shadows across Dante's face. Your grandmother runs this restaurant? I asked once we were alone. My family owns it. She manages it because she loves to cook. He poured water from a glass carafe, his movements economical and precise. This is where we have real conversations, Isla, away from the hotel, away from anyone who might be listening. The statement sent ice down my spine. People listen at the hotel? Always. His eyes met mine. Which is why I need you to understand exactly what you've agreed to. Here it was. The truth beneath the generous salary and health insurance. I'm listening, I said. Dante leaned back, studying me in the candlelight. My family has operated in this city for 4 generations. We're not... He paused. We're not what most people would call legitimate. But we're also not monsters. We have rules, codes. We protect our own. You're Mafia. I said it flatly, needing to hear the words spoken aloud. We prefer organization, but yes. No shame in his voice. No apology. And right now, we're in the middle of a succession crisis. My uncle believes he should lead the family. I believe it should be me. The next few months will determine which of us is right. My water glass trembled when I picked it up. What does this have to do with me? Everything. He leaned forward and the candlelight carved his face into sharp angles. My uncle uses the palazzo for his meetings. So do several of our rivals. If you're positioned properly, you'll see things, hear things that could help me. You want me to be your spy? I want you to be my eyes in a place I can't always be. His hand moved across the table, not quite touching mine but close enough that I could feel the heat of his skin. In return, you get protection, resources, everything I promised. And if I'm caught? You won't be. You'll be careful, subtle, just a server doing her job. His fingers finally made contact, brushing over my knuckles. But I need to know you understand the risks, Isla. Once you start down this path, there's no going back. My enemies will become your enemies. Your choices will have consequences. I thought of my mother's face when I'd told her about the insurance, the hope that had lit her eyes for the first time in months. I understand, I whispered. Do you? Dante's grip tightened slightly. Because this isn't a game. People die in my world, Isla. They disappear. They betray each other for power, for money, for survival. I'm offering you something precious. My protection. But it comes with a price. What price? His thumb traced circles on my palm, hypnotic and warm. Loyalty, complete and absolute. You work for me now. Not the hotel, not yourself. Me. And if you ever lie to me, if you ever betray me. His voice dropped to barely a whisper. I'll know. It should have terrified me, should have sent me running from the restaurant, from this beautiful, dangerous man who was wrapping chains around me disguised as opportunity. But instead, I felt something else. Something that made my pulse quicken and my skin flush hot. I won't betray you, I heard myself say. His smile was slow and devastating. No, he agreed. You won't. Nonna arrived then with plates of food that smelled like heaven, fresh pasta with sage butter, roasted vegetables glistening with olive oil, bread so warm it steamed when I tore it open. We ate, and Dante told me stories about his childhood in this restaurant, about learning to make sauce from his grandmother, about the first time he'd realized his family was different from others. He made me laugh, which felt dangerous in itself. By the time he drove me home, rain was falling again, turning the city into a watercolor painting beyond the windows. He walked me to my door, standing close in the narrow hallway while I fumbled with my keys. Isla, he said, and the way he spoke my name made me look up. Tomorrow, at the hotel, we're strangers. Professional. Distant. Do you understand? Yes. But when I call you, his hand came up, cupping my face the way he had in his suite. You answer. Always. I nodded, not trusting my voice. He leaned down, and for one heart-stopping moment I thought he would kiss me. Instead, his lips brushed my forehead, soft and surprisingly tender. Sleep well, little spy. Then he was gone, leaving me alone in my doorway with the ghost of his touch burning against my skin. 3 days passed before I heard from him again. 3 days of settling into my new position, learning the rhythms of the senior staff, fielding curious questions from Rosa about my sudden promotion. 3 days of watching Table 7 remain conspicuously empty. 3 days of jumping every time my phone buzzed. The hotel felt different now. Every conversation I overheard seemed weighted with hidden meaning. Every well-dressed guest became a potential target or threat. I found myself cataloging details: who sat where, who met with whom, which conversations stopped abruptly when servers approached. I was becoming paranoid, or maybe just aware. On the 4th day, a man in an expensive suit requested a table in the VIP section. Late 50s, silver hair, a smile that didn't reach his cold blue eyes. "Mr. Vitelli?" Angela said when she assigned me to serve him, her voice tight. "Be especially attentive. He's important." Vitelli. I didn't recognize the name, but something about the way she said it made my instincts prickle. I approached his table with a practiced smile. "Good evening. Can I start you with something to drink?" He looked up from his phone, and his gaze moved over me in a way that made my skin crawl. Not sexual, exactly. More appraising. Like I was merchandise he was considering purchasing. "McAllen 25, he said. "Neat. And tell me, sweetheart, are you new here?" "Fairly new, sir. 3 weeks. He went back to his phone, dismissing me. I brought his whiskey, noting that 2 more men joined him within minutes. One was younger, maybe early 30s, with the build of someone who spent serious time in a gym. The other was older, nervous-looking, with a briefcase handcuffed to his wrist. They spoke in low voices, heads bent together. I refilled water glasses, cleared appetizer plates, stayed professional and nearly invisible the way good servers do. But I listened. "Tuesday shipment? 20 kilos? Pier 17. Don't trust Caruso." My hand trembled slightly as I poured wine. Caruso. They were talking about Dante. Arrogant prick thinks he's untouchable. His grandmother is the weak point. Send a message he can't ignore. Ice flooded my veins. I forced myself to move naturally, to finish service, to walk, not run, toward the employee area. The moment I was alone in the supply closet, I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and dialed the number I'd memorized. He answered on the first ring. "Isla. My voice cracked. I heard something. At the hotel. Men talking about... Not on the phone." His voice was sharp. "Where are you?" "Supply closet, 3rd floor. Stay there. Don't leave. Don't talk to anyone. I'm sending someone." The line went dead. I pressed my back against the wall, trying to control my breathing. 5 minutes passed. 10. My mind raced through what I'd heard, trying to remember every word exactly. Then the door opened. The gray-suited man from before, Dante's driver, bodyguard, whatever he was, stood in the doorway. "Miss Moreno, come with me, please." "I'm still working. Your shift has been covered." He held the door open, patient but immovable. "This way." He took me out a side entrance I hadn't known existed, down a service corridor and through a door that required a keycard. We emerged in an underground parking garage where a black SUV waited with its engine running. Dante sat in the back seat. I slid in beside him, and the door closed behind me with an ominous click. The driver took the front seat, and we were moving before I could speak. "Tell me everything," Dante said. No greeting, no preamble. "Every word you remember?" I repeated the conversation as precisely as I could, watching his face grow harder with each sentence. When I mentioned his grandmother, something flickered in his eyes. Rage, quickly contained. "You're certain they said Tuesday?" he asked when I finished. "Yes, and Pier 17. He was silent for a long moment, staring out the tinted windows. Rain had started again, turning the world beyond the glass into blurred impressions of light. "You did well," he finally said, his voice carefully neutral. "This is exactly the kind of information I need. They're planning something against your family." It wasn't a question. "They're always planning something." His jaw tightened. "But now I know where and when." The SUV turned down a narrow street I didn't recognize, pulling into what looked like an abandoned warehouse. My heart started hammering. "Where are we?" "Somewhere safe." Dante looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw the calculation behind his eyes. "I need to ask you something, Isla, and I need you to be completely honest." "Okay. How do you feel right now?" The question surprised me. "Scared," I admitted. "Confused. I don't understand what I've gotten myself into." "No," he agreed. "You don't." He shifted in his seat, angling toward me. "But you're here anyway. You called me immediately. You remembered details. You didn't panic." "I'm panicking now," I said, and was rewarded with the ghost of a smile. "No, you're not. If you were panicking, you'd be crying or demanding I take you home or trying to get out of the car." His hand moved to my face, tilting my chin up. "You're sitting here, breathing, waiting to understand. That's not panic, Isla. That's control." His touch made coherent thought difficult. "What happens now?" "Now I deal with Vitelli and his associates. And you." He paused, his thumb tracing my lower lip in a gesture that felt impossibly intimate. "You go back to your normal life, work at the hotel, watch and listen. And when you hear something important, you call me." "That's it?" "For now." He released me, and I felt the absence of his touch like cold air rushing in. "But Isla, you need to understand something. You heard them mention my grandmother. That means they're escalating, moving from business threats to family threats. The game is changing." "What does that mean for me?" His expression darkened. "It means you're more valuable to me than ever, and more at risk." He reached into his jacket and pulled out something small and silver. A phone. "Take this. It's encrypted, untraceable. Keep it with you always. If you sense danger, if anyone approaches you, if anything feels wrong, you call the number programmed in it. Someone will be there in minutes." I took the phone with numb fingers. "You think they might come after me?" "I think that if Vitelli finds out you work for me, yes." Dante's voice was brutal in its honesty. "I think he'd use you to hurt me without a second thought. Which is why no one can know about our arrangement. Not Rosa, not your other coworkers. No one." The warehouse suddenly felt very dark, very isolated. "You're scared," Dante observed. "Good. Fear keeps you careful. But don't let it paralyze you." "How can you be so calm?" I asked. "They were talking about hurting your grandmother, about some kind of shipment." "Because I've been navigating this world since I was born." He leaned closer, his voice dropping to something almost gentle. "And because I protect what's mine, Isla, always. My grandmother will be safe. So will you." "I'm not yours," I whispered. His smile was dark and certain. "Yes," he said. "You are. You just haven't accepted it yet." Before I could respond, he was moving, pushing open the car door and offering his hand. "Come, there's something I want to show you." Against every instinct screaming at me to stay in the car, I took his hand and followed him into the darkness. The warehouse wasn't abandoned. Dante led me through a maze of corridors, past rooms filled with men who stopped talking when we passed, their eyes following me with predatory interest. None of them spoke to Dante, but their deference was obvious in the way they stepped aside, the way they lowered their gazes. We climbed metal stairs to a second level, where he unlocked a door with both a key and a thumbprint scanner. Inside was something that looked like a command center from a spy movie. Wall-mounted screens displayed security feeds from what had to be dozens of locations. Computer servers hummed in climate-controlled cases. A massive table dominated the center of the room, covered in maps and photographs and documents I couldn't read from this distance. 3 people worked at various stations, 2 men and a woman, all in their 20s or early 30s, all with the sharp-eyed intensity of people who missed nothing. Out, Dante said quietly. They left without a word, though the woman's gaze lingered on me with obvious curiosity. When the door closed, leaving us alone, Dante moved to the table and gestured for me to join him. "This," he said, indicating the spread of materials, "is how we survive." I approached slowly, my eyes taking in the details. Photographs of men in expensive suits, floor plans of buildings, shipping manifests, a web of red string connecting various elements like something from a detective's murder board. And in the center of it all, a photograph of the man I'd served tonight. Vitelli. "He's your uncle," I realized aloud, seeing the family resemblance now that I was looking for it. "Half-uncle." Dante's voice was cold. "My grandfather's son from his first marriage. He believes blood entitles him to lead the family. I believe competence does." I studied the board, following the red strings. "And the others? The men he was meeting with?" Dante pointed to the younger man's photo. "Marco De Luca, muscle with ambitions, loyal to whoever pays best." Then to the nervous man with the briefcase. "And this is Bernard Kessler, accountant, money launderer, generally terrified of his own shadow." "Why would he work with them if he's scared?" "Because Vitelli has something on him. A daughter with a drug problem, if my information is correct. Vitelli supplies her habit in exchange for Bernard's cooperation." Dante's jaw tightened. It's his favorite tactic, find people's pressure points and squeeze. I thought of my mother, of the insurance that was keeping her alive, like he could do with me. "Yes." Dante turned to face me fully. "Which is why I brought you here. I need you to understand the stakes, Isla. This isn't about money or territory anymore. Vitelli wants me dead. He wants my grandmother dead. He wants anyone who supports me eliminated so he can take control of the family and run it the way my grandfather did. Brutal, short-sighted, all tactics, and no strategy." "And you're different?" I didn't bother hiding my skepticism. His smile was sharp. "I'm absolutely brutal when necessary. But I think long-term. I build alliances, not just armies. I understand that fear only works for so long before people start looking for alternatives." He moved closer, forcing me to tilt my head back to maintain eye contact. "Vitelli will burn this city to the ground for power. I'll build an empire that lasts generations. That's the difference. An empire built on crime. An empire built on reality." He didn't flinch from the accusation. "People want drugs, prostitution, gambling, all the things society claims to condemn but consumes enthusiastically. We provide those services while minimizing the violence, protecting the vulnerable, and keeping the streets relatively safe. Without us, you get chaos. With us, you get order." "That's a hell of a rationalization." "It's not a rationalization, it's a fact." He leaned against the table, arms crossed. "But I'm not trying to convince you I'm a good man, Isla. I'm not. I've killed people. I've ordered deaths. I've done things that would make you sick if you knew the details." My breath caught. "Then why are you telling me this?" Because I need you to understand who I am before this goes any further. His voice dropped to barely above a whisper. Because when Vitelli discovers our connection, and he will, eventually, you'll have to decide if staying with me is worth the danger. And you can't make that choice without knowing the truth. The room felt smaller suddenly, the air thicker. What if I decide it's not worth it? Then I'll arrange for you and your mother to disappear. New identities, new city, enough money to live comfortably for the rest of your lives. He said it simply, like it was the most natural thing in the world. I told you, Isla, I don't force people. I give them choices and let them live with the consequences. That's still manipulation. Yes. No apology in his voice, but honest manipulation. I'm not lying about what I am or what I want. I'm laying it all out for you. The question is, what do you want? What did I want? I looked at the board again, at the web of connections and conspiracies. 3 weeks ago, my biggest worry had been making rent. Now I was standing in a secret headquarters, learning about Mafia politics, being offered witness protection like something from a movie. I want my mother to live, I said finally. I want to not worry about money every second of every day. I trailed off, unsure how to finish. What? Dante pressed. Say it. I want to matter, I admitted. I want my life to mean something beyond just surviving. His expression shifted into something I couldn't quite read. You already matter, Isla. You mattered the moment you knelt in broken glass and took the blame for someone else. That's who you are. Someone who protects people, even at cost to yourself. Then why do you want me to be your spy? If I'm so protective? Because, he said, moving closer until we were sharing breath again. You're also someone who understands that sometimes protection requires difficult choices. You quit nursing school to work minimum wage because it was the right choice for your mother. You accepted my offer because it was the right choice for her survival. You called me tonight because you understood that information could save lives. His hand came up, fingers tangling gently in my hair. You're not soft, Isla. You're steel wrapped in silk. That's exactly what I need. My heart was racing, but not from fear anymore. And what do you need me to do with the information from tonight? Nothing. He smiled at my obvious surprise. You've already done your job. Now I handle it. How? That's not your concern? His voice hardened slightly. There are lines, Isla. Things you'll see, things you'll hear, and things you'll never know about. It's safer that way, for both of us. But, no. He stepped back, breaking the spell between us. You report. I act. That's the arrangement. Don't ask questions I can't answer. I should have been frustrated. Should have felt diminished, relegated to the role of informant without agency. Instead, I felt something like relief. He was drawing boundaries, giving me plausible deniability, protecting me, even as he used me. Okay, I said. Okay, he echoed. Then softer. I'm taking you home now. And Isla? Don't come back here unless I bring you. This location is classified. If Vitelli's people caught you anywhere near this warehouse, they'd know you were compromised. How would they catch me? His smile was grim. Because they're watching you already. They have been since the night you served my table. The words sent ice through my veins. What? A silver Honda. It's been parked near your building for 3 days. Driver changes every 8 hours. He pulled out his phone and showed me photographs. Surveillance photos of a car, of men sitting inside it, of my apartment building in the background. I have people watching the watchers, making sure they don't get too close. But yes, Isla, they know who you are. They just don't know yet what you mean to me. Then why haven't they? Because they're cautious. They're gathering information, building a file, waiting to see if you're useful. His jaw tightened. And because the moment they touch you, it's an act of war. Vitelli isn't quite ready for that yet. My apartment suddenly seemed very small, very exposed. Should I move? No, that would confirm their suspicions. You need to maintain your routine. Work, home, visits to your mother. Normal, predictable. He cupped my face with both hands now, his touch gentle despite the hard truths he was speaking. I know this is frightening, but you're safer than you think. My people are watching too. And I promise you, Isla, no one will hurt you. Not while I'm breathing. The intensity in his voice made my throat tight. Why do you care so much? I'm just some waitress you decided to recruit. No. He cut me off, his eyes burning into mine. You're not just anything. You're mine to protect now. And I take that responsibility seriously. Before I could respond, before I could process the possessiveness in his words, he was guiding me toward the door, back through the warehouse, back to the car. The drive to my apartment was silent. When we pulled up outside, Dante walked me to my door again, standing close in the narrow hallway. Tomorrow, go to work like normal, he said. If anyone asks about tonight, you felt sick and needed to leave early. Angela will confirm the story. You think of everything. I have to. His thumb brushed over my cheek. Sleep, Isla, and don't worry about the car outside. They're just watching. They won't act. Not yet. The not yet hung in the air between us. Dante? I said as he turned to leave. Yes? Thank you for being honest, for showing me all of that. His smile was small and devastating. Don't thank me yet, little spy. You might hate me before this is over. Then he was gone, and I was alone with the deadbolt and the encrypted phone and the terrible knowledge that somewhere outside, men were watching my windows. The silver Honda was there every morning for the next week. I forced myself not to look at it directly, to walk to the bus stop with my head down and earbuds in like any other exhausted service worker heading to her shift. But I felt its presence like a physical weight, a reminder that my life was no longer entirely my own. At the hotel, I fell into a rhythm. Service, observation, the careful mental cataloging of details I'd report later to Dante during our brief, encrypted phone calls. He never told me what he did with the information. I stopped asking. But things were changing. I noticed it first in the tension among the senior staff. Whispered conversations that stopped when I approached. Angela's increasingly brittle smile. The way certain VIP guests were being quietly refused reservations without explanation. On Friday, Rosa pulled me aside during our break. Something's happening, she said, her voice low. Management's been meeting with lawyers all week. And that man, Vitelli, he hasn't been back since you served him. My stomach clenched. Maybe he just found a restaurant he likes better. Maybe, but she didn't sound convinced. Just be careful, Isla. I don't know what's going on, but people are nervous. And when people get nervous in this place, bad things tend to happen. She was more right than she knew. The call came at 2 a.m. I jerked awake to the encrypted phone buzzing on my nightstand, my heart already racing before I was fully conscious. Hello? My voice was rough with sleep. Get dressed. Dante's voice was clipped, urgent. Someone's coming for you. You have 3 minutes. Ice flooded my veins. What? 3 minutes, Isla. Jeans, sturdy shoes, your phone, and ID. Nothing else. Car's pulling up now. The line went dead. I moved on pure instinct, yanking on jeans and a sweatshirt, shoving my feet into sneakers. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely grab my wallet. I was halfway to the door when I heard footsteps in the hallway, heavy, purposeful, not trying to be quiet. They stopped outside my apartment. The doorknob turned slowly, testing the lock. I backed away, looking frantically for another exit. The fire escape. I could get to the window, climb down. The door exploded inward. 2 men in dark clothes rushed in. I opened my mouth to scream, but one of them was already on me, hand clamping over my mouth, other arm locking around my waist. "Quiet," he hissed. "We're here to help." I thrashed, panic overriding logic until I saw the tattoo on his wrist, a symbol I'd seen on the men in Dante's warehouse. He felt me go still and loosened his grip slightly. "Caruso sent us. There's a team coming up the back stairs. We need to move now." The other man was already at the window, prying it open. 30 seconds. "Can you climb?" the one holding me asked. I nodded, not trusting my voice. He released me, and I ran to the window. 4 stories up. The fire escape was rusty, probably hadn't been used in years. Below, a black van waited in the alley with its back doors open. "Go," the tattooed man ordered, "fast as you can." I climbed out onto the fire escape, the metal cold under my hands. Behind me, I heard them shoving my dresser against the door, barricading it. I was halfway down when I heard shouting from above. A gunshot cracked through the night and I nearly lost my grip on the ladder. "Jump!" someone yelled from below. I looked down. 10 feet to the van's roof. Too far. I'd break something. Another gunshot, closer. I jumped. The impact knocked the air from my lungs, but hands were already grabbing me, pulling me down into the van. The doors slammed shut, and we were moving before I could process what had happened. "Head down," someone ordered, pushing my face toward my knees as the van careened around a corner. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. I stayed curled in a ball on the floor, trying to breathe, trying to think. Someone had tried to take me. Or kill me. I wasn't sure which would have been worse. The van drove for what felt like hours but was probably only 15 minutes. When it finally stopped and the doors opened, Dante was there. His face was a mask of barely controlled rage. "Get her inside," he snapped at his men. Then to me, "Can you walk?" I nodded, though my legs felt like water. He lifted me out of the van himself, carrying me into another nondescript building, an apartment this time, furnished but impersonal, probably a safe house. He set me on a couch and immediately began checking me for injuries, his hands moving over my arms, my legs, tilting my face to the light to check for bruises. "I'm fine," I managed. "They didn't hurt me. Your men got there first." "Barely." His voice was granite. "Another 30 seconds and Vitelli's team would have had you." The reality of it hit me then, and I started shaking uncontrollably. Dante pulled me against his chest, one hand cradling the back of my head, the other wrapped around my waist. "Breathe," he murmured. "You're safe now. I've got you." I buried my face in his shirt, breathing in his scent, bergamot and cedar and smoke, and let myself fall apart for exactly 60 seconds. Then I forced myself to pull back, to look at him. "What happens? Now? Now, you stay here." He gestured to the apartment. "This location is secure. My men will be outside 24/7. You don't go anywhere without an armed escort." "For how long?" His jaw tightened. "Until I eliminate the threat." Eliminate. Such a clinical word for what he meant. "You're going to kill them," I said. "Yes." No hesitation. "Vitelli crossed a line tonight. He went after you, which means he knows you're important to me. I can't let that stand." "But..." "No buts, Isla." His hands framed my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. "Do you understand what would have happened if my men hadn't gotten there first? Vitelli would have taken you, tortured you for information, used you as leverage against me. And when you were no longer useful, he would have killed you and left your body somewhere I'd be sure to find it." The blunt words made me flinch. "I'm sorry," Dante said, softer now. "I'm sorry I brought you into this. But I can't change what's happened. All I can do is keep you alive." "My mother," I said suddenly. "If they know about me, they know about her." "Already handled. I moved her to a private facility this afternoon, after I got intelligence about the planned raid. She's under guard. No one can touch her. Relief made my eyes sting. You moved her? Told them it was a medical transport to a better care facility. Which it is. His thumb wiped away a tear I hadn't realized had fallen. I told you, Isla. I protect what's mine. I'm not... Yes. He cut me off, his voice rough. You are. Whether you accept it or not, whether you want it or not, you're mine now. And I don't let anyone hurt what belongs to me. The possessiveness should have angered me, should have made me push him away, demand my independence. Instead, I found myself leaning into him, letting his arms come around me again, letting myself feel safe for the first time since the door had exploded inward. I'm scared, I admitted against his chest. Good, he murmured. Fear will keep you careful, but don't be paralyzed by it. You're stronger than you know, Isla. You proved that tonight. I didn't do anything. I just ran. You survived. That's what matters. He pressed his lips to my forehead, a gesture that felt simultaneously protective and claiming. Now rest. Tomorrow, things change. What do you mean? He pulled back to look at me, and the expression in his eyes made my breath catch, determination mixed with something darker, something that looked almost like regret. I mean tomorrow, I go to war, and when it's over, either Vitelli is dead, or I am. The safe house had 2 bedrooms, a small kitchen, and bars on all the windows. I didn't sleep. I lay in the dark, listening to footsteps outside, Dante's men on patrol, and trying to process the fact that my life had become unrecognizable. 4 weeks ago, I'd been a struggling waitress. Now I was hiding in a safe house while a Mafia boss prepared to kill his uncle over me. Not just over me, I reminded myself. This war had been brewing long before I entered the picture. I was just the catalyst, the final provocation. Still, men were going to die tonight because I'd answered the phone, because I'd said yes to Dante's offer. At dawn, there was a knock on my door. I opened it to find Dante standing there with coffee and a bag from a bakery I recognized, his grandmother's restaurant. You need to eat, he said, moving past me into the room without invitation. He looked different, still impeccably dressed in all black, but there was something harder about him, something that made the predator beneath the civilized exterior visible. He wore a shoulder holster with a gun that made my stomach clench. Is that really necessary? I asked, nodding at the weapon. Yes. He set the coffee and food on the small table. I came to explain what's going to happen today. You deserve that much. I sat, wrapping my hands around the coffee cup for warmth I didn't really need. I'm listening. Vitelli is having a meeting this afternoon. Pier 17, the location you overheard. He's arranging a weapons shipment, something big enough that my contacts in law enforcement can't ignore it if presented with the right evidence. Dante's voice was cold, clinical. I'm going to interrupt that meeting. Permanently. You mean you're going to kill everyone there? Some of them. He didn't flinch from my bluntness. Vitelli, definitely. DeLuca probably. The others will have a choice. Surrender or die. And the accountant? Bernard? With the daughter? Something flickered in Dante's expression. He'll be offered protection if he cooperates. His daughter will be placed in a genuine rehabilitation program, not the trap Vitelli's been using to control him. He paused. I told you. I'm not a monster, Isla. I don't punish people for being victims. Just for being enemies? Yes. No apology. Do you want me to lie about what I am? Pretend this is anything other than what it is? I took a sip of coffee, bitter and strong. No. I want the truth. The truth is that Vitelli tried to take you. That's an act of war in my world. There are rules. Women, children, civilians are supposed to be off limits unless they're directly involved. You're a waitress who happened to overhear a conversation. By any reasonable standard, you should have been untouchable." His hands clenched on the table. "But Vitelli doesn't follow rules. He never has. And if I let this stand, if I don't respond with overwhelming force, I look weak. And weakness in my position is a death sentence. So it's about reputation. It's about survival." He leaned forward, intensity radiating from him. "If I don't kill Vitelli today, he'll try again. And again. He'll go after my grandmother, my allies, anyone who supports me. He'll turn this city into a war zone until one of us is dead. I'm just choosing to end it on my terms." I studied his face, looking for doubt, hesitation, anything that suggested this decision cost him something. But all I saw was resolve. "What do you need from me?" I asked. "Nothing." The answer surprised me. "You've done enough. Today you stay here. Safe. When it's over, I'll come back." "And if you don't?" His smile was grim. "Then the man outside, his name is Luca, will take you and your mother somewhere far away. You'll have new identities, clean backgrounds, enough money to start over. I've already made arrangements." The casual way he discussed his own death made my chest ache. "I don't want your money if you're dead." "No?" He stood and moved around the table, pulling me to my feet. "What do you want, Isla?" "You," I thought. "I want you to survive this. I want to understand why the thought of you dying makes me feel like I'm drowning." But I couldn't say that. Couldn't give voice to feelings I barely understood myself. "I want this to be over," I said instead. "I want to go back to my life." "Liar." His hand cupped my jaw, tilting my face up. "You don't want your old life back. That life was suffocating you, grinding you down day by day. Whatever else I've done, I've woken something up in you. I can see it in your eyes." He was right. I hated that he was right. "What have you woken up?" I whispered. "The part of you that wants more, that's willing to risk safety for something bigger." His thumb traced my lower lip. "The part that's been dormant so long you forgot it existed." "That's not—" He kissed me. Not gentle, not asking permission. His mouth claimed mine with the same ruthless certainty he brought to everything else, one hand fisting in my hair, the other pulling me flush against him. I should have pushed him away. Should have maintained distance, kept this professional. Instead, I kissed him back, my hands clutching his shirt, my body betraying every rational thought I'd ever had. When he pulled back, we were both breathing hard. "I've wanted to do that since you knelt in broken glass," he said roughly. "Since you looked up at me with blood on your fingers and apologized for something that wasn't your fault." "Dante, I know." He rested his forehead against mine. Terrible timing, possibly the worst. "But if I'm going to war today, I needed you to know. Needed you to understand that this isn't just business anymore. Maybe it never was." My heart was racing, my thoughts a chaotic mess. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that when this is over, if I survive, I want you. Not as my informant, not as someone who owes me. Just you. Whatever that means, however that looks." His eyes searched mine. "And if the thought of that terrifies you, if you want nothing to do with me after today, I'll accept that. But I needed you to know the truth before I go." I opened my mouth, but no words came. How could I explain that yes, he terrified me, but not in the way he thought? That I was afraid of how much I wanted this, how much I'd come to crave these moments when he looked at me like I was the only real thing in his violent world. "Come back," I said finally. "Survive this, then we'll talk." His smile was small and devastating. "Deal." He kissed me again, softer this time, almost tender. Then he was pulling away, checking his weapon, becoming someone else. The Mafia boss, the killer, the man who would wade into violence without hesitation. Stay inside, he ordered. No matter what you hear, Luca will keep you updated. Dante? I caught his hand before he could leave. Be careful. Always am. He squeezed my fingers, then released them. See you soon, little spy. The door closed behind him, and I was alone with cold coffee and the terrible knowledge that I'd just let my heart get tangled up with a man who might be dead by sunset. The hours crawled by. I paced the small apartment, checked my phone obsessively, drank too much coffee and ate nothing. Luca, stationed outside my door, offered no information beyond the occasional, "No news yet." At 3 o'clock, I heard sirens, lots of them, heading toward the waterfront. My hands shook so badly I had to sit down. At 4, Luca's phone rang. He answered in rapid Italian, his expression darkening. When he hung up, he looked at me with something like pity. "What?" I demanded. "What happened?" "There was complications. The boss is alive, but what?" "He's at the hospital, St. Catherine's. He told me to bring you." My legs nearly gave out. "How bad?" "I don't know. Come on." St. Catherine's emergency entrance was crawling with police. Luca navigated us through a side door, through corridors that reeked of antiseptic and fear, until we reached a private wing where more of Dante's men stood guard. An older woman sat in the waiting area, silver hair, sharp eyes. Dante's grandmother from the restaurant. She stood when she saw me, moving with surprising speed to grip both my hands. "You must be Isla," she said in accented English. "My grandson spoke of you. Is he alive?" "Demanding to see you, actually. The doctors are not happy, but when has Dante ever cared what doctors think?" She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Go. Third door on the left." I walked on numb feet to the indicated room. Inside, Dante sat shirtless on the hospital bed, while a doctor stitched a wound on his shoulder. His torso was a tapestry of bruises, blood, and older scars I'd never seen beneath his expensive suits. His eyes found mine immediately. "You came. Luca said you wanted me here." "I did." He dismissed the doctor with a gesture. 5 minutes. I'll be fine." The doctor looked like he wanted to argue but thought better of it. "Don't move that arm," was all he said before leaving. When we were alone, I moved closer on shaking legs. "What happened?" "Vitelli was expecting me." Dante's voice was rough. "He'd arranged an ambush. We still won, but the cost was higher than anticipated." "Is he dead?" "Yes. So is DeLuca. Bernard is cooperating with authorities, giving them everything in exchange for protection. The war is over." He reached for me, with his good arm, pulling me to stand between his legs. "It's finished, Isla. You're safe. You're hurt. I've had worse." His hand moved up my spine, gentle despite the violence he'd just survived. "Mostly I'm angry at myself for underestimating him. Won't happen again." "You can't know that." "Yes, I can. Because I'm done underestimating anyone. Vitelli taught me a valuable lesson today. Mercy is a luxury I can't afford." His expression hardened. "From now on, threats are eliminated immediately. No more waiting, no more trying to avoid bloodshed." The casual way he discussed becoming more ruthless made my stomach turn. "You're talking about killing more people. I'm talking about protecting my family. Protecting you." His grip tightened slightly. "Do you have any idea what it felt like, knowing you were in danger because of me? Knowing that if my men had been 30 seconds slower, you'd be dead? But I'm not. This time." His eyes were fierce. "What about next time? What about the rival who decides you're a useful target? The enemy who thinks taking you will break me?" He pulled me closer, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "I can't lose you, Isla. I won't. Even if it means becoming the monster everyone already thinks I am." "You're not a monster." "Yes, I am. You just haven't seen the worst of me yet." He released me, suddenly, standing despite the doctor's orders. Which is why I'm giving you an out. My breath caught. What? A choice. Real one, this time. He moved to the window, keeping his back to me. Everything I promised. The money, new identities for you and your mother, a fresh start somewhere far from here. It's all still available. You can walk away today, disappear, and I'll make sure no one ever finds you. Or you stay. He turned then, and the vulnerability in his eyes was startling. You accept that being with me means danger, that it means living in a world where violence is currency and trust is bought with blood, that it means watching me make decisions you'll hate, doing things you'll struggle to forgive. And what do I get in exchange? My voice came out smaller than I intended. Everything I am. Simple. Devastating. My protection, my resources, my loyalty, a place in my world, in my life, the freedom to be more than a waitress drowning in bills. He paused. And me. For whatever that's worth. My heart hammered against my ribs. Dante. I'm not asking for an answer now. Take time. Think about it. Visit your mother. She's asking for you, by the way. She's been told you're safe, but wants to see you herself. His smile was tired. Just, when you decide, be sure. Because once you choose to stay, I won't let you go. Can't let you go. You'll be mine in every way that matters, and I'm selfish enough to never give you up. The possessiveness should have terrified me. Instead, I crossed the room and kissed him, tasting blood and antiseptic and something uniquely him. When I pulled back, his eyes were dark with surprise and want. I'm not leaving, I said. I'm terrified and confused, and probably making the worst decision of my life, but I'm not leaving. Isla, you said I want more. You were right. I do want more. I want to matter, to be part of something bigger than survival. I took a shaky breath. I want you. However broken and dangerous and complicated that is, I want it. His good arm wrapped around me, pulling me tight against his bruised chest. You're sure? No, but I'm choosing it anyway. He laughed then, the sound rough but genuine. That's the most honest thing anyone's ever said to me. I'm too tired to lie. I rested my head carefully on his uninjured shoulder. And you were right. I haven't wanted my old life back for weeks. I just didn't want to admit it. Why? Because wanting this, wanting you, means accepting that I'm not who I thought I was. The good girl who plays by the rules, who makes safe choices. I looked up at him. Being with you means accepting that maybe I'm capable of being someone else, someone darker. And that's terrifying. You're not dark, Dante murmured. You're steel. There's a difference. Is there? Steel bends but doesn't break. Steel protects what it surrounds. Steel is necessary, not evil. His hand cupped my face. You're not becoming someone else, Isla. You're just finally becoming yourself. Maybe he was right. Maybe this version of me, the one who could stand in a hospital room with a wounded mafia boss and choose danger over safety, had always existed beneath the surface. Or maybe I was lying to myself, rationalizing a decision my heart had made before my brain could catch up. Either way, I'd made my choice. And as Dante kissed me again, gentle despite everything, I decided I'd learn to live with the consequences. They released Dante from the hospital the next morning against medical advice. I spent the night in an uncomfortable chair beside his bed, dozing fitfully while he slept. Every time I woke, his eyes were open, watching me with an intensity that should have been uncomfortable, but somehow wasn't. You don't have to stay, he'd said around 2 a.m. I know. I'm not going anywhere. I know that too. He'd smiled then, a real smile that softened the hard edges of his face. Stubborn. You would know. Now, in the gray light of dawn, Luca drove us to a house I'd never seen, massive, gated, with security that made the safe house look amateur. "Is this where you live?" I asked as we pulled through ornate iron gates. "One of several properties." Dante winced as the car hit a bump. "This one's the most secure. Until I'm certain there are no remaining threats from Vitelli's network. We'll stay here." We. The casual use of the plural made my stomach flutter. The house was beautiful in an intimidating way. All marble and dark wood and art that probably belonged in museums. Staff materialized to take bags I didn't remember packing, to offer food and drink in hushed voices. "Your room is upstairs," Dante said. "Third door on the right. Rest. I have calls to make, a family to reorganize." I could help? No. Not unkind, but firm. "Today, you rest. Tomorrow, we figure out what your new life looks like." He was right, of course. I was exhausted, emotionally wrung out, operating on adrenaline and stubbornness. But as I climbed the wide staircase to the third door on the right, I felt strangely hollow. The room was gorgeous. King-size bed with silk sheets, ensuite bathroom with a tub the size of a small pool, a walk-in closet already filled with clothes in exactly my size. I should have felt grateful. Instead, I felt like a bird in a gilded cage. I woke to knocking. Disoriented, I checked my phone, nearly 8 p.m. I'd slept for almost 12 hours. "Come in," I called, expecting staff. Dante entered, moving carefully to favor his injured shoulder. He'd changed into casual clothes, dark jeans and a soft gray sweater that made him look younger, less dangerous. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Like I've been run over." I sat up, pushing hair from my face. "You?" "Similar." He moved to sit on the edge of the bed, close but not touching. "I came to apologize." That surprised me. "For what?" "For all of it." His voice was quiet. "For approaching you that first night. For dragging you into this world. For putting you in danger." He finally looked at me, and the regret in his eyes was painful to see. "You should be at home, visiting your mother, living a normal life. Instead, you're here because I was selfish." "I chose this," I reminded him. "Yesterday, in the hospital, I chose you. You chose under duress. After being attacked, after watching me nearly die. That's not a real choice, Isla. That's trauma bonding." The clinical term made me flinch. "Is that what you think this is?" "I don't know what this is." He ran his good hand through his hair, frustrated. "All I know is that you deserve better than me. Better than this life. Maybe." I shifted closer to him. "But what if this is what I want anyway?" "Then you're either crazy or lying to yourself." "Or," I said, taking his hand, "I see something in you that you refuse to see in yourself." He laughed, but it was bitter. "Like what? The violence? The blood on my hands?" "The man who made sure an accountant's daughter got real help. Who gave me honest choices even when lying would have been easier. Who kisses his grandmother on both cheeks and runs a restaurant because she loves to cook." I squeezed his fingers. "You're not just the violence, Dante. You're also everything else. The everything else doesn't erase the rest." "I'm not asking it to." I pulled his hand to my chest over my racing heart. "I'm asking you to let me decide what I can live with." He stared at our joined hands, his expression conflicted. "What if you decide wrong? What if 6 months from now you can't stand the sight of me? Then we'll deal with it." I cupped his face with my free hand, forcing him to look at me. "But you don't get to make that decision for me. You don't get to push me away because you think you know what's best. I'm trying to protect you." "From yourself?" I shook my head. "I don't need that kind of protection. I need honesty, partnership, someone who treats me like an equal, not a fragile thing to be sheltered." Something shifted in his expression, surprise mixed with something that looked like hope. An equal? Yes. I was sure now, more sure than I'd been about anything in years. I don't want to be your kept woman or your guilty conscience. I want to be your partner, someone who understands your world and chooses to stand beside you in it. Isla. I kissed him before he could argue, pouring every complicated feeling into it. Fear and want and determination and something that felt dangerously like love. When we broke apart, his eyes were dark with desire and disbelief. "You're absolutely certain?" he asked hoarsely. "Yes. Because once we cross this line, once I let myself have you completely, there's no going back. I meant what I said. I won't let you go." "Good," I whispered. "Because I'm done running from this." He kissed me then, fierce and claiming, his good hand tangling in my hair while the other pulled me closer despite the pain it must have caused his shoulder. We fell back onto the bed together, a tangle of limbs and half-shed clothing and breathless laughter when we bumped his injury. "Careful," I murmured against his mouth. "I'm never careful with things I want." The night blurred into sensation after that. His hands learning my body, my fingers tracing scars and stories written on his skin. Not just passion, though there was plenty of that, but also tenderness, vulnerability, the strange intimacy of two damaged people choosing to be unguarded together. Later, when we lay tangled in silk sheets with the city glittering beyond the windows, Dante traced patterns on my bare shoulder. "I love you," he said quietly. "I don't know when it happened, but it did. And I need you to know that before we go any further." My breath caught. "Dante." "You don't have to say it back. Not yet. Maybe not ever." His hand stilled. "But I needed you to know. Needed you to understand that this isn't just possessiveness or obsession. It's real." I turned in his arms, studying his face in the moonlight. Strong features softened by vulnerability, dark eyes that had seen too much but still found space for hope. "I love you too," I admitted. "It's probably insane, definitely reckless, but it's true." His smile was brilliant and rare, the expression of a man who'd never expected to be loved and couldn't quite believe he was. "Then we'll be insane together," he murmured, pulling me close. And lying there in his arms, in a house that was more fortress than home, with the ghost of violence still haunting the edges of our new life together, I realized I'd never felt safer, or more alive. 3 months later, I stood in Dante's grandmother's restaurant, watching him work the room. He moved through the crowd with easy confidence, shaking hands, accepting condolences on Vitelli's death with appropriate solemnity, consolidating power with every conversation. The family had officially recognized him as the new head, and tonight's gathering was both celebration and warning, a demonstration that the Caruso organization was stronger than ever under his leadership. I felt out of place in my designer dress, a far cry from the black vest and apron I'd worn the first night we met. "You look beautiful, Cara," Nonna said, appearing beside me with a glass of wine. "But nervous? Why nervous? You belong here now." Did I? Some days I still felt like an imposter playing dress-up in someone else's life. But then Dante's eyes would find mine across a room, and he'd smile that small private smile reserved only for me, and I'd remember. I chose this. Every complicated, dangerous, beautiful piece of it. "Speech time," Nonna announced, nodding toward where Dante had moved to the center of the room. The crowd quieted as he raised his glass. "Thank you all for coming," he began, his voice carrying effortlessly. "These past months have been difficult. We lost family, faced threats, and were forced to confront hard truths about who we are and what we're building." I watched faces in the crowd. Some I recognized from the hotel, others from the warehouse, a few whose names I'd learned only recently, all of them watching Dante with varying degrees of respect, fear, and calculation. My uncle believed power came from fear, Dante continued. From brutality and intimidation. He was wrong. He paused, letting the words sink in. Real power comes from loyalty, from building something worth protecting, from understanding that our strength lies not in how much damage we can inflict, but in how effectively we can shield those under our care. His eyes found mine across the room. Which brings me to someone I want you all to meet. He extended his hand toward me. Isla, would you join me? Every head turned. My heart hammered as I crossed the room to take his hand. The crowd parted like water, their gazes heavy with curiosity and judgment. This is Isla Moreno, Dante said once I stood beside him. Some of you know her from the palazzo, others have heard rumors. All of you should know this. She's under my protection. Absolutely and irrevocably. Anyone who threatens her, threatens me. Anyone who harms her, signs their own death warrant. The declaration sent a ripple through the crowd. I felt my face flush, but Dante's grip on my hand was steady, grounding. She's also, he continued, his voice softening slightly, the reason I'm standing here at all. Her courage, her intelligence, and her loyalty helped us end a war that could have destroyed this family. So when you toast to our future tonight, remember, it wouldn't exist without her. He raised his glass. To family. To loyalty. To the future we're building together. To family, the crowd echoed. And just like that, I was no longer a waitress who'd stumbled into the Mafia. I was Dante Caruso's woman, a position that came with its own power and its own dangers. Later, after most of the guests had left and only close family remained, I found myself on the restaurant's back patio with Rosa. She'd been shocked when I'd called her 2 weeks ago, explaining I'd left the hotel for personal reasons but wanted to stay in touch. Now she studied me with knowing eyes. "You're in deep," she observed. "Yes." "Are you happy?" I considered the question honestly. Was I happy? I lived in luxury, never worried about money, had the best medical care for my mother. But I also jumped at loud noises, checked over my shoulder constantly, and had nightmares about men breaking down my door. "I'm alive," I said finally. Really alive. For the first time in years. That's not the same as happy. But it's something. Rosa squeezed my hand. "Just be careful, hun. Men like Dante, they burn bright. But everything around them tends to catch fire, too." She wasn't wrong. I found Dante an hour later in his grandmother's office, reviewing documents with Luca. "Give us a minute," he said when he saw me. Luca left without comment, closing the door behind him. "How are you holding up?" Dante asked, pulling me into his arms. "Overwhelmed, terrified, weirdly proud of you." I rested my head on his chest, listening to his steady heartbeat. That was quite a speech. "You deserved the recognition, and the protection." His hand stroked my hair. "I meant every word, Isla. You're not just some woman I'm sleeping with. You're essential to me." "Essential like a strategic asset?" I teased, trying to lighten the mood. "Essential like oxygen." No humor in his voice, just brutal honesty. Like my heart beating, like every reason I have to build something better than what came before. I pulled back to look at him. "That's a lot of pressure." "I know. Too much?" "Probably." I smiled despite myself. "But I'm not going anywhere." "Good." He kissed my forehead, gentle and reverent. "Because I have something to ask you." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. My heart stopped. "Before you panic," he said quickly, "this isn't an engagement ring. Not yet. We're not there yet. And I know it." He opened the box to reveal a delicate gold band with a single red stone. "This is something else." "What is it?" "A promise." He took the ring from the box. "In my family, when someone becomes part of our inner circle, truly part of it. They wear our crest. This stone is a ruby from my grandmother's wedding ring. The gold was melted down from a coin my grandfather carried when he first came to America. He held it up to the light. Wearing this means your family, Isla. Not blood, but chosen. Protected. Honored. My throat was tight. Dante, you don't have to decide now. Think about it. Because once you put this on, there's no pretending anymore. Everyone will know who you are, what you mean to me. The danger increases. The expectations increase. Your old life, whatever pieces of it you've been holding on to, they're gone forever. I looked at the ring, catching the light like a drop of blood. Then at his face, at the vulnerability he was trying so hard to hide beneath certainty. Put it on, I said. Isla. I've spent 3 months learning your world, living in it, being shaped by it. I held out my hand. I'm not holding on to my old life anymore. I'm building a new one, with you. His hand shook slightly as he slid the ring onto my finger. It fit perfectly, of course. He'd probably had it sized without me noticing. No going back, he warned. I know. You'll be a target. I already am. You'll see things you can't unsee, know things you can't unknow. I already do. He pulled me close and I felt him shudder against me, relief or fear, or both. I'll spend every day trying to be worthy of this. Of you. You already are, I murmured against his chest. It was a lie, maybe, or maybe just a truth that hadn't fully formed yet. Dante was violent, ruthless, capable of terrible things, but he was also loyal, protective, surprisingly tender in private moments. He was building something new from the ashes of his uncle's brutality, not perfect, not clean, but perhaps incrementally better. And I'd chosen to help him build it. Was that love? Courage? Stupidity? Maybe all three. Later, as we drove home through the city, his hand on my thigh, the ruby ring catching streetlight, I looked at my reflection in the window. I barely recognized the woman staring back. She looked harder than the waitress who'd dropped a champagne flute 6 months ago. More aware, more dangerous in her own right. But she also looked free. What are you thinking? Dante asked, noticing my silence. That I should probably be more scared than I am. Are you scared? A little. I laced my fingers through his. But mostly I'm just here, present, ready for whatever comes next. His smile was slow and warm. Then we'll face it together. Together, I agreed. And as the city blurred past, I realized this was my life now. Not the one I'd planned, not the safe, predictable existence I'd imagined, but something bigger, stranger, infinitely more complicated, something mine. I'd been a waitress who survived. Now I was a woman who chose danger, chose love, chose to stand beside a beautiful monster and help him build an empire from blood and ash. And somehow, impossibly, I'd never felt more like myself.